Hello, everybody. Good morning. Happy Saturday. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. Now, I normally do my Driving with Dave show Saturday morning, and guess what? I still have that for you, but I've got extra content. That's right. After Thursday night's finale of Golden Bachelor, we've got Katie Couric, one of my favorites. I love Katie Couric. Grew up on the Today Show. Katie Couric, Greg Gumbel, Brian Gumbel, Greg Gumbel, no thanks. Brian Gumbel, absolutely. Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel were amazing growing up, right? We loved them. Well, now she's interviewing Gerry Turner. She confronts him about her ex's claims, the ones from the Hollywood Reporter article. So I'm going to get into that right now. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals, patreon.com/Dave Neal. If you enjoy this Saturday morning content and want to donate to the channel, go over there. And also Bachelor Rush Hour, the podcast. If you are on a road trip or mowing the lawn or whatever the hell you're doing this morning and you can't watch Driving with Dave, you can listen to it at the Bachelor Rush Hour and catch up on all of the entertainment news this week. There's a lot packed in there that we never got to on the channel. So anyway, on the Dave Neal show today, this is what we share. Oh, I got the wrong image pulled up. This is what we share here. We talk actually with Becca Moore. She's a TikToker creator, and she was also robbed at Coachella and turned that robbery into a great story where she was able to raise a ton of money for her Uber driver. It's a fascinating story. And there's also a little bit more maybe Bachelor adjacent tea that you'll want to get from listening to that. I'll play a clip of it at the end of this episode, but let's go and hear what Gerry had to say about Leslie, and then we're going to get into what he has to say after Katie Couric confronts him regarding the Hollywood Reporter article.
As it was with Faith, I was committed to them, listening to what they had to say, and I had strong feelings for them. So when I expressed love for them, in those moments, it was legit. Mm-hmm. And it was completely legit until the moment I realized that there was a woman for me there that was the person I couldn't live without.
And Teresa, what was it like hearing Leslie's experience? Did you feel bad for her? Did it make you question Gerry's commitment to you? I mean, what was going through your head when you were hearing really about how hurt she was?
I love Leslie. Actually, Leslie was one of my best friends in the house, and I completely understand how she feels. She needed to say that. And and Gerry just said it, he had to go through the experience. He had to give 1,000% or to every single woman. This was his journey, and he felt the way he felt in the moment. And it's not like Gerry and I don't have love we really do have love for Leslie, love for Faith. So it was difficult hearing it, but I knew beforehand what was going to be said.
Yeah, not everybody's a winner, right? And Leslie, of course, had her heart stomped all over here. Here's what she had to say. She released a post. Grateful for the journey on Bachelor, where I embraced vulnerability and chased love fearlessly. Though the final rose eluded me, my worth isn't determined by someone else's choice. True happiness blossoms from self-love and empowerment as a woman. The overwhelming support has been my greatest prize. This experience opened my heart and mind, and I'm excited for the next chapter, wherever it may lead. Thank you. Hashtag Team Leslie. Everybody loved Leslie here. I mean, Leslie wore her drabby $50,000 dress. She didn't wear the $60,000 one. But would we like to see Leslie as a Golden Bachelor? I don't see why not. I do not see why not. Okay, so let's get into it. Here's what Gerry Turner had to say. And he was pressed multiple times by Katie Couric. I got to tell you, doesn't come off great. Love Gerry Turner, but boy, would he be great in politics.
I mean, not exactly what was going to be said, but I knew beforehand. Gerry and I had discussed his entire journey, so I was prepared for every time I viewed the show. It was really, but it's hard. I mean, I wound up in tears. I mean, it's very difficult hearing something like that.
Meanwhile, Gerry, welcome to life as a public figure. As you know, the Hollywood Reporter had a story recently, and I'm sure you're prepared for this question. I'm sure the folks at Disney told you that this was probably coming, but the article claims that you really didn't present yourself honestly. First of all, in terms of your professional life, that you sold a hamburger restaurant you worked your way up in back in 1985. You've done a bunch of other jobs since then, installing hot tubs, working as a maintenance man in a mental health center. And people, by the way, spoke very highly of you at this mental health center where you worked. What is your reaction to that? Do you feel like you represented yourself accurately as sort of a restaurateur?
Well, that question has come up a number of times, and I've always said the same thing. It's funny. People will make that sound elegant, but I've always said, basically what I did, the business I owned, was very much like the Cadillac Diner that Teresa and I were at the very first date. I sold burgers and fries and shakes, and it was a very profitable business. And the comments about what I did later in life with, hot tubs and some of the mentally challenged things, I did those after I retired. I retired at 55 and didn't want to do anything. And so I was very happy kind of giving back to the community, doing something that was worth something to other people.
Okay, so this is an A+ response, right? He goes, yeah, I was retired. I wasn't making cash doing that. I could have made more money. I was being charitable. Great answer. Absolutely. He actually comes off great. The idea of a restaurateur is actually kind of slick. You know what I mean? Like, you run in all these restaurants with these high-priced things. You're flambeing bananas and this and that. He's like, no, mom-and-pop burger shop, slinging milkshakes, cleaning the sticky things off of the diner. Great. Here's where we get into a little bit of quicksand here. When Katie Couric, I don't know if she's ever won any journalism prizes, but she probably should have, because she's one of the best that's ever done it.
I mean, geez, I really didn't work as a handyman for the money. I did it because I knew I was doing something good for people who needed help. So that's kind of the funny part of that article, is that there's just enough truth in it. But the reality is it's of not concern to me now. I have so many positives that I have to think about that I haven't really given that article a whole lot of thought.
Well, I have to ask you about another claim that was made. You have said repeatedly, I guess, on the show, that you hadn't been with anyone since your wife died in 2017. And that's been refuted, that in fact, you had a long-term relationship with someone that started 3 months after your wife, Toni, passed away. And some pretty unflattering things have been written about.
Just sucks he has to deal with this, but this is the result of the article. Don't blame Katie Couric. She's a Glamour award-winning woman. Don't blame her. Blame the article.
The way you treated this particular woman, and that there were also women you dated after that. So a lot of people are wondering what's true, what's not. Can you help us out with that?
Well, I guess I would say this. But I dated a number of women. Then it becomes an issue of how do you define if you're in a relationship or not?
Well, now we got to be careful, because this lady claims she lived with him. So was he just, running a dormitory, or were they dating,
I guess like any guy, I had a number of dates, and it was one or two. But
what about this long-term relationship that lasted a couple of years?
I need to start doing this whenever I ask pressing questions. Well, what about this? Just a little finger on the chin here. How do we? Now that I'm going to become a dad, huh? Were you really out last night? I didn't see that in your Instagram stories.
Well,
oh boy.
It really didn't. But, again, I want to focus on what's going on now.
So he says it really didn't. Let's look again, because I chalked over it here. But this is interesting, because she's I'm not saying she's caught him here. I still think it's an absurd story, this stupid lie they're trying to catch him in. But is this going to, smoke Carolyn, the accused, scorned ex, out of her anonymous hole and provide even worse receipts? And this is where we have to be careful.
I guess like any guy, I had a number of dates, and it was one or two. But
what about this long-term relationship that lasted a couple of years?
Well, it really didn't. But again, I want to focus on what's going on now.
Says this didn't last that long.
The important thing for me right now is where I'm at today, and looking back on those things to me is no benefit.
Teresa, when you read that article, and then I'm going to move on, I promise. But what did you think about these accusations? Did it make you feel like, gosh, maybe I really don't know enough about this guy?
And by the way, poor Gary Turner's body image. I'm not a behavioral expert here, but he looks so dejected from this.
No, actually, I didn't feel that way. We've had so many discussions, and he's discussed his past with me, and so I did not feel that way. I completely trust Gerry, and we really know each other. We've shared past stories.
I've been in the public eye for a long time, Gerry. Has it been hard to read these things and to get the reaction from many people and to have people really talking smack about you?
Katie, no. I've said in a couple of interviews that the most fun I've had is reading some of the negative conversations and
Not
negative
me.
comments. All the way from me being a recovering alcoholic to having had spray tan to having my ears pinned back, which I think is really a funny one.
All right, so he's able to kind of look at this lightly, but I want to remind people this. Because the biggest concern that it seems that folks have here is whether or not they're catching Gerry in some crazy lie, and that's kind of the way we framed this article. It's like we have to remember something. Gerry's not running for president. We're not cross-examining someone who's a hypocrite, who's voted against their constituents' needs and this and that. And Nick Thompson, again, who's one of the founders of the UCAN Foundation, a shirt that I'm wearing right here that says "Reality sucks," right? Reality sucks. One of their messages is just to try to inform people that what you see on the screen isn't always what's happening.
Should be viewed as entertainment in the same way that WWE Pro Wrestling is. WWE is not considered a sport because of its predetermined outcomes. Instead, it's considered sports entertainment because it's loosely scripted, competitive, and delivers theatrical performances. Reality shows share these same types of attributes. Characters are cast in roles that can lead to theatrical portrayals of themselves. Scenes are loosely scripted.
Bingo. Theatrical portrayals of themselves. So while Gerry Turner did date women after his wife died, does that really matter to the story? Now, I'm willing to say, look, did they fabricate, did they explore this sort of ideal that Gerry was more perfect in his purity after his wife broke up? Sure. But come on, very rubbish if that's what we're going to hold on to when it comes to his story. Now, if we're going to hold on to the idea that he was a horrible boyfriend or whatever, was he really that bad that the lady left her left where she lived to move in with him? No, he was only bad when she was broken up with, and that seems to be the problem here. All right, I'm going to share a very quick clip with you from my Driving with Dave episode with Becca Moore. This is fascinating. This goes live like right away. So if you're watching this video, this will be live next, and I want you to try to guess who she's talking about here.
Before this happened, and then when I saw the whole...
Because you had made a video about me before, one time.
About this story?
No.
Or about a Nick...
No.
What did I make a video about?
This is the girl, Becca Moore, who's on my soundboard right here.
This is going to be on Dave Neal, by the way.
So that's her on Nick Viall saying this is going to be on Dave Neal. So we've got a fan of the Dave Neal show in the Bachelor Nation News here.
Now I'm nervous.
I'll bleep out the name, but... Because... I mean, I don't know why I said I'll bleep out the name, but he flew me out. I was 21.
He flew you out to where?
So the question is, can you decide who she's talking about in our reality TV world?
And I made a story about that?
Yeah.
What was it about?
Because he flew me out, and then I made a TikTok about it.
Oh.
And yeah.
Oh, funny.
And then he went home with another girl.
Was I mean to you?
No, not
Okay.
at all.
I was like, oh,
no.
shit.
You were like, everyone's speculating and they're saying on Reddit that it's, and it was. You were right. But obviously I couldn't tell you.
But he was single at the time.
Yeah, he was
okay.
single.
All right, so you can go watch the Dave Neal show and hear this story about how Becca Moore used her platform to raise $250,000 for her Uber driver's sick daughter. Fantastic story. You're going to feel amazing having listened to a story of trial, tribulation, and guardian angels in an Uber ride. All right, folks, have a fantastic day. I'm doing my gender reveal today, which I will have up on the YouTube channel. Tasha Courtney and Dave Neal do fun things. We'll have that up, I don't know when, but I've got all of my pregnancy vlogs uploading there. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.